What is the first thing that you think of when you hear the term private prison?
Businesses running prisons for their own money.
Profits.
I would think that you have special privileges, like what the TV shows show.
That private institutions could get away with a lot of things that could be inhumane, could be better, but like the regulation is the part that makes it really sketchy of a place.
Between 1970 and 2005, the US's prison population grew by a massive 700%, far outpacing both population growth and crime rates. Today, it's got to the stage where America is home to 5% of the world's population, but a quarter of the world's prisoners. And not only does America have the highest imprisonment rates of any country in the entire world, but it also has the highest rate of youth incarceration. Over 130,000 juveniles are detained in the US every year, and on any given day there are more than 70,000 youths in detention.
What do you think about the fact that they will keep a prisoner in for a longer period of time just for keeping their capacity full?
I didn't know that that was a rule that prisons instituted. I think it's really ridiculous that they'd even try to keep people in prison for unnecessary amounts of time. Like, it's against, like, every right that they have to be free.
Since the government doesn't check on it, they can do whatever they want.
I feel that's unfair.
Haven't been the American public, but the private prison companies who are making giant profits out of people being in jail. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, in 2010, the two largest prison companies alone received nearly $3 billion in revenue, while their top executives each received annual compensation packages worth more than $3 million. Private prisons didn't really exist before the early 1980s, when US states and the federal government needed a solution to the overcrowding in public prisons. But between 1990 and 2009, the number of people in private prisons increased by a massive 1,600%. And the business model of these private prison companies essentially depends on locking more and more people up.
It wasn't their first time there, so they already knew what to expect. But
Was it like overcrowded?
there was always a lot of people, and everybody was always treated like a caged animal.
They're treated like a caged animal.
If they didn't want to feed you, they would leave you in the cell, and they wouldn't feed you for days, or however it is.
And they would do that to gain profit in private prisons.
Basically. I don't know. Like, if you want to, like, snacks over there don't really exist. You kind of have to sneak in your own food to your cell and do that. He even told me about making his own, like, little microwave in his mattress.
The biggest of the US's private prison companies is the Corrections Corporation of America, otherwise known as the CCA. And private prison companies spend a lot of money on lobbying politicians. According to analysis by the Associated Press, between 2002 and 2012, the CCA, along with the US's second and third largest private prison companies, Geo Group Inc. and Management and Training Corporation, otherwise known as MTC, spent around $45 million on lobbying state and federal governments between them. And in addition to lobbying, these three companies also pour hundreds of thousands of dollars every year into the election campaigns of governors, state legislators and judges. Worryingly, private prisons in America have been linked to numerous cases of violence and poor conditions. This CCTV video shows a brutal beating of 24-year-old Hani Elabed by another inmate at the CCA-run Idaho Correctional Center in January 2010. Elabed was left with permanent brain damage from the attack and later died in 2012.
I think highlights two fundamental flaws in our system. One is ineffective assistance of counsel. A lot of the people who are on death row are represented by lawyers who have no background in the death penalty and are not effective lawyers. These lawyers have huge caseloads, and what they do is they end up making the type of mistake that this defendant's lawyer made in this case, which is calling an expert and having his own expert testify about the fact that just because this person is black, he is more likely to be a danger in the future. Right? If you're on death row, why would you pay someone, an expert, to come in and testify against you? The only reason you would do that is because your lawyer made the decision and the lawyer is a terrible lawyer. So that's the first fundamental problem in our system. We have lawyers who represent people on death row who have no training and background and expertise in the death penalty. The second is the actual system itself. How could a court allow a jury to convict and sentence someone to death after that type of testimony, racist testimony, is brought out? Right? And that's just a fundamental, that reflects or showcases a fundamental problem in our system, that a lot of juries and sometimes a lot of judges are making decisions based on factors that they should not be considering. Race-based factors, religion-based factors. And that's the reason why we can't, have juries make these types of important judgments, or judges.